Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. I just want to welcome everybody to the juice this morning. It's it's fall, and I can't believe, but you guys are the panel that was the very first juice panel that we had back in March, and I was thinking it was 6 months ago. It's actually 7 months ago that we launched.
Wow.
And we launched in the middle of the pandemic, or right at the beginning of the pandemic, when we didn't really know what the hell was going on. And not that we know what the hell's going on now, but at least we've had 7 months to be sort of to be in upheaval. Let me introduce everybody this morning, and then we'll kind of start in on our discussion, which is going to really be what has everybody been doing in the last 7 months? What's new? What's changed? Lessons learned? Things like that. So I want to welcome this morning Kristine Yang from The Only Bean, Laura Vaughn from Blackbird, and Juice Man, Jermale Eddie, Malamiah Juice Bar. So you guys, it's great to see you. I was just saying I haven't seen anybody in person. Great to see your faces. But let's kind of go. And Murphy, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to not introduce you. Murphy's been our technology wizard for the last 7 months. So she is an expert at all things virtual. So I really appreciate all the work that she
tried.
So what I'd like to do is really start out by maybe going around and having each one of you just give us an update on what's been happening with you in the last 7 months with your business, personally, and then we'll kind of talk about some, I have a few, comments and topics that I want to hit. So why don't we start out with Kristine? Welcome.
Thank you for having me. So happy to see everyone again. Like Laurie said, it's been a long time. I actually didn't realize it's been 7 months.
Yeah.
Didn't know the pandemic was going to go on for this long. Thought this was a couple of months kind of thing.
Yeah.
So been pretty busy. We had a couple of shifts, I think, in our business, and we saw some changes. I think when we first had when we first did the juice event, we were experiencing everyone going into the retail stores and buying up everything off the shelves. So that was kind of a stage that we went through when we quickly ran out of inventory. And I think we talked about supply chain was a big problem for us. We couldn't get the product here because basically everywhere in the world was shut down. So now it's been 7 months and we still have the same issue with supply chain. Now that we source overseas and now that our factory is back up, I think we're seeing the ripple effect of that supply chain of the whole world being shut down and everywhere's low on inventory. So we're seeing some freight costs that has never been that high before. We're seeing in air freight and sea freight, it's been probably double for what we normally pay. Normally from, like $3,000 we're now paying like $6,000. It's just pretty crazy. And from the business perspective, we just been, keep trying to work hard. With a lot of buyers working from home, it hasn't been as active as we would have liked for 2020. So we kind of just shift our focus on working on getting into a distributor, which we are launching in October with a national distributor. So that is great news for us.
Mm-hmm. And then Kristine, you shared with us the other night on 5x5 night that you guys also have a brand new product, which is really cool.
Yes. I shared, was that yesterday? That was yesterday. It was yesterday.
Yeah.
Together now. For the first time publicly, yes, we will have a new line of crunchy roasted edamame beans coming for 2021 in 2 different flavors, so sea salt and sriracha. So we're really looking forward to that. We saw statistics that Americans are now spending more on snacks than our actual meals. It's just because we're all home and people are just working a lot and you're just constantly snacking. So that category is growing very fast.
Good for you. That's awesome. Okay, Laura, let's hear from you.
Yeah, well, I can anecdotally say I've been buying a lot of snacks. And having kids in your house all the time means you're just like way more aware of all the things they eat all day, and how constant it is. But so for Blackbird, and I don't know if people are joining that maybe weren't on last time, we do online RSVP for events, and events were shut down and still are both regulated and not recommended at certain numbers at this point. So we basically spent the early on in the pandemic with mostly zero business, and then shifted to being able to support virtual events pretty quickly. I would say, I think it was within the first month, we had kind of allowed for people to say, hey, here's an online event. You can still RSVP and you get your Zoom link or whatever you're using after you've registered. So we enabled that, which helped a bit. But it's just, it was a slow summer. It was personally really hard to like get motivated to be like, I still have a few people using this that reach out for support. And I've now had to shift my time to both taking care of kids that were home and doing some contract work to pay the bills. So it was definitely a tough time. Even now we're at about, I just checked, we're at about 40% of the business that we were doing before the pandemic on a monthly basis. So it's definitely come back a bit. People are having to put together, even if it's a small event and they're using Blackbird, which we have plenty of customers that do that. Mm-hmm. It's not for huge conferences. So I guess that's a great thing. I think a lot of Eventbrite's business was those huge, large events like that, and they're certainly not doing well. So we still have some activity going on. I'm paying attention to what's going on in the market, but I'm not really we don't have a ton of cash right now to be investing in something totally new. So our strategy right now is to hang tight. We have few expenses. It's a tech business. It's very low overhead. So from that perspective, we're just trying to tighten down and wait till things start opening up. And it has gradually grew. It's just way underperforming at this point. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, interesting. We'll come back to everybody. I just want to go to Jermale next and get an update. I know you've been crazy busy.
Yes, I have been busy. It may or may not be what one thinks. First I'll say that with school being back in session, I have 3 boys. One is all virtual. 2 are hybrid. My wife recently resigned from her job. She's working on a PhD. I'm trying to keep a business going while trying to think of new innovative ideas, and also be present at home, helping with the schooling, being present with my wife, as well as a couple, as a unit. And so it's a lot. We were very, very busy early on with a lot of deliveries, and through FedEx and through my personal delivery services, meaning Jermale's Honda Pilot pulling up to your driveway. And that all fell off. People at one point, I got my Black and Love shirt on here. When we were doing well, that was unfortunately after all the George Floyd unrest and Breonna Taylor stuff going on. America said, hey, we're going to support and buy Black. We're going to support these businesses. We were booming. We were, easily doing $4,000 a week. And America forgot what they said that they were going to do, which in a lot of ways is America in so many ways. And so that hurt us, that killed us. The movie theaters have been closed. The arena is closed. Roads have been blocked off. So therefore, we're tucked inside of a complex where you can't see us going by. Hindsight is 2020. I don't know, it might be 100. But we've been here trying to keep the deliveries going. So what have I been doing? I've been working on launching a subscription-based platform so that for those who say, "Oh, I forgot to get my juice out," it can automatically be there. Working on wholesale. We did have juices in a few stores because there was recently a change and temporary change with food service that ready to eat and drink beverages could be in grocery stores without being a wholesaler. Well, guess what, y'all? That includes everything except for juice. So who had to go get their juices from stores and dump them out and couldn't sell them? This guy right here. And so, although it may look like we're killing it online, hey, it's rough. We're struggling. We're suffering. I got a whole lot more to say about that. But in the meantime, I've been trying to do a little bit of business consulting, essentially a master class here and there of what I call TLC, things learned from COVID, and the ABCs of business, as well as I have a couple clients in Detroit and one in Ohio. And then I started another entity that is called Black and Tired. And it's a t-shirt line. Just with all that's been going on, people who look like me, we tired.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I had a panel a little bit ago, and we talked about that. I had Jermale Robinson from Grab, and we talked a lot about, and that's not necessarily the topic for today, but I definitely want to touch on it. The fact that, during all the George Floyd publicity and discussion and everything, that there was, this conscious, let's support Black businesses. And then it was, like, how do we sustain that? How is that sustainable? And it shouldn't just be because it's in the, it's in the news and it's the thing to do right now today. And so it was kind of this twofold conversation about people realizing that, it's not just a one-off. It's not just something that you publish on your social media that, oh, look, I went and bought Malamiah juice.
Yep.
But it's also, interestingly enough, businesses have to somehow have a value proposition that makes customers think this is a product that I want all the time. So it's sort of, and I'm not saying that, people are having juice and then it's like, oh, I don't want that anymore. But it's kind of like, it is that sort of happy medium. And I think it's true of any business owner. You have a product, or you have a service, or you have whatever it is that you're asking people to pay for. And you have to come up with this proposition as to why are people going to come back to me?
Let me jump in real quick and say this is that that's definitely a great point. I guess I would challenge that or speak to the fact that if those Black-owned businesses weren't being supported before what folk deem as racial unrest, even though it's been like that for decades, and then they said, yes, we're going to support it now. And then they said, no, we changed our mind or we forgot. It's essentially a consciousness thing. It's a choice to go back to normal. And so many people are pressuring, the governor and mayors and landlords or whatever to get back to normal. Well, normal wasn't good in the first place. I can speak to several pieces of that when it comes to the life cycle of our business and who those customers were and whatnot. And it has to be a a change of consciousness of saying, hey, I'm going to continue going to this place. I don't want to give myself a pat on the back. I don't want to do the flavor of the week, what's popular right now, like you said, so that I can post on social media and show that I'm supporting this or supporting that. And when it comes to Black-owned businesses, it definitely shouldn't be that way, because that's almost like saying I got a Black friend. It's like, oh, I got a Black-owned juice. You know, I know that being pretty blunt, but we should not be looking to get back to normal, because normal was not good for a big portion of our population. We should be looking at saying, hey, if this is a time to reflect on the past and the current, how do we make the future not like the past? How do we make the future not like the current? And so that's where we got to be. We have to have a total mindset change. Otherwise, it's like doing a crash diet.
Yeah. No, I absolutely 100% understand where you're coming from. Well, that kind of, I guess that leads me into a point. You know, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, so there's so many things going on right now. There's the pandemic. There's, you know, all of the things that happened as a result of that. How our society and the world has completely changed. There's, you know, social uprising, which I believe are related, because I feel like people's emotions are so high that everything is just all interconnected and interrelated. And I feel like we're having just, you know, a tumultuous time on so many fronts. And people are being forced to be introspective and all these things. And so I think people's consumers' behaviors are changing, our lives are changing. And so how do you look at your business? And, you know, Laura, you said you're watching, like, how do you think that our changing society and changing consumer behaviors, how do you react to that as an entrepreneur? If it affects your business, and how?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a bit like I think those things are related, because it's a little bit like sitting in the discomfort is actually better than like jumping to a decision of some kind, because you like really need to sit, experience what's going on, and then like sort of take notes, right? You're watching what's happening, but things change from a pandemic standpoint, from the world. It changes, you know, daily, weekly. But there are some trends that are holding out. I remember I was talking with somebody about their business in the food space, and the early pandemic was just a much different space than later. You know, there was like food scarcity. People were super afraid to go into grocery stores. People were wiping down all the things they were buying. And I think if you were to there's definitely short-term changes you could have made then to like respond and capitalize, but it's for the long term, what do we think of that as going to hold on? For events, it's definitely, you know, people will gather in some way. So I've been paying attention to how that's been happening, but trying to almost separate it from what we do today, because it's not a one-to-one world. We're not going to be able to say, hey, we did this business last year and we had these, you know, key customers, and that's who we'll have going forward. But I think just paying attention to what's happening for us, I don't know that I have any great conclusions right now, but I do know that, you know, people are coming into the office less, but they're starting to come back. And I think that will impact a lot of our corporate customers. I mean, was our largest customer base, was companies and organizations having events. And I think we'll see, and I think we have seen that people, you know, Murphy was mentioning, people are reaching out asking about using StreamYard for virtual events. I think people are starting to get in the headspace of like, we're going to have to get used to this for the next year. And it's time to start resuming some kind of gathering activity, even if it's online. So it's things we're paying attention to, but I'm trying not to jump to any conclusions, because things have been changing so quickly.
Yeah. Kristine, what do you think? Like, how do you, I think, you know, like you said, there was a shortage of things on the shelves. I mean, I think we all experienced that. It seemed like, you know, I never experienced any shortage of fresh produce or things like that. It was canned goods, and it was it was pasta and it was rice and it was, I think, things that people could buy and keep because they didn't know what was coming next.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I also think there was a lot of reflection on people, you know, on health. You know, all of a sudden we're in a pandemic, so we have to eat better. So, you know, now people are looking at healthier food options. So,
yeah, exactly. I think that at the beginning, we did experience that where everyone was buying everything off the shelf, like you're saying, like the pasta, more like the staple items, because they didn't know what was going on. And we had stores that would call us and say, I want whatever you have. I want the rest of your inventory, whatever you can bring me. Can you bring me today? I would like in an hour. Can you do that? And I think that it's, you know, I wish I had all of that prepared. And I have more inventory than other people. And, you know, maybe I could have, you know, sold a lot more for the only bean. But I think for, you know, Brian and I have bootstrapped our business for 2 years until now. So there's limited capital that we can spend on the inventory. And when we were air shipping units over, I remember someone telling me, like, you guys really need to project better on your inventory. And I'm like, really? I really think you need an expert to project a pandemic. It's just because we always try to keep, you know, you want your inventory to just be at the level where when you order next and then the first one sells through. So I think that's a very hard to predict for us. And so same as other people that we experienced a whole couple of months where we have nothing. And the whole everybody's buying out the stores, and then we're seeing the increase online because then people are starting to shift online. Like, okay, now the stores are low on inventory, I'm going to buy online. But we kind of got hit both of those. We didn't have enough inventory online either.
Yeah.
But now going through in the 7 months, now we are here. We do see that the increase in our online sales have stayed, actually. So it means that more people are shifting towards healthy food products. Mm-hmm. And then the second piece is more people are shifting and sticking with ordering online. Instead of going to the actual stores, even though that right now the retail stores are fully stocked with staple items like canned goods and pasta. And I've also seen statistics that say that 8 out of 10 Americans have changed the way they eat, meaning one habit or the other. Mm-hmm. I think the first one is 80% of people is eating from home, and then the second one is eating healthier. Mm-hmm. So trying to, with kids at home, with them working from home all the time, they're trying to find healthier food products. So it's kind of great that we're in that space and just trying to advertise more on the healthy pasta part.
Right. So Jermale, when you know, like how long have you been in your new space? You had just gotten into your space.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. We moved in December 1.
Yeah. So you were like 3 months in, or not even.
Right. Yep.
And so, I mean, your business model, moving out of the downtown market, gave you expanded space. Mm-hmm. Supposedly, it gave you expanded space. It was going to give you a lot of other kinds of foot traffic from the theater, the location, everything that was going on around Studio Park. You expanded your offerings, and so. You know, how at this point, how obviously there's less people walking around, the foot traffic isn't there. How have you been adjusting or thinking of moving forward, obviously, at this point?
Yeah, you know, so like many of you all have experienced and expressed just going to the store shelves and seeing them empty. That's essentially what we see when we've come downtown. when we stand in the courtyard out here and do a 360 look around, it's like that space is empty, that space is empty, that store is empty, that whole theater is empty. It's just like, it's essentially, it's, what it looks like we're living in a dream. Like, like when you see TV and on movies, it'd be like a whole like city that's just dead and empty from a pandemic or whatever. It's like, man, that sucks over there. But it's like, we're living through that movie. We're seeing it played out and whatnot. And so, we've seen quite a bit of that. And so for us, some of the adjustments have been to shrink our menu at one point back down to what we were doing at the downtown market, so just juices and smoothies. And then we slowly started to reintroduce salads and kombucha and coffee, and thinking about what's that one item that might bring a few additional customers in the door that might also be like, oh, I do want to grab another juice or smoothie. So we've done that. And it kind of ebb and flows a little bit on who's coming in and whatnot. They started doing events. I think since we spoke last talk, they started doing events in the courtyard, concerts and movies and whatnot. And so the hope was that that would help spur our business, as well as the 3 other businesses that are open right now. And that hasn't panned out for us or Pump House across the street. With that, because when folk come to see a movie or come for a concert, they're usually gonna, like, especially if it's a movie, you're gonna stay right there. You pay for the movie, you're not getting up. Like, I don't even want to get up to take my kids to the bathroom, So you're gonna stay right there. And so I understand that, and as well as the concerts. If it's your favorite artist, you don't want to get up and go grab something real quick because you might miss something. So and what we've thought in our minds, like, man, we don't have the robust system that Studio Park has, where they can take an order right there and know what seat somebody's sitting in and bring it right to them. There's 200 people out there. I'm like, I don't know. Folk are looking the same with a mask and a hat on. And so maybe I should make an announcement. Hey, your stuff's ready from the screen. But, we've done that. We also, when things were started getting really well for us, we brought back employees because we were just having a lot of work. We felt great about that. But again, when sales went down, we ended up letting employees go again because of, you got to have enough coming in the door in order to make it make sense. And so we've adjusted in those ways while still putting a lot of energy in wholesale. And so what I think is going to help Malamiah, if you will, as a brand out, is doing wholesale. And I say that as what business owners do, as taking a risk. So, we think it will be that thing, but it may not be. We just got to try it anyway. And so what's going to happen is you all are going to see coming soon over the next couple of months, another brand of juices that'll be cold pressed juices with a 60 to 75 day shelf life that we're going to crank out. Now, I also recognize that there'll be money lost in the whole wholesale thing. And so we'll have to sell more units. But, it's just another thing that we've been working on for 3 years that we feel like will be the will be the lifeline for us. And then on the flip side of things for our retail space, I heard someone mention on the 5x5, one of the judges mentioned that there's going to be a lot of retail spaces available in the next couple of months. And many of us, small business owners, especially small business owners of color, are facing the reality that we're not bringing in enough money to cover the expenses from overhead of, say, accounting and having the square footage that we increase and things of that nature. And so, we've been thinking and talking to ourselves, like, how long are we going to be able to hold on here with the space that we put all of our heart, soul, tears, money, every dime that we have into? Is it gonna work out? And speaking with financial advisors, aka the bank who gave us our loans, they're basically like, hey, if it don't work out, tough. Y'all signed on a dotted line, so you're still going to owe us, kind of a thing. And so we've been, looking at these things. We've been looking at some of the programs that are out there, like the PPP and some of these things, right? Not realizing that for some of the programs that are out there, if you relocate your business in a different place from when you applied, you have to pay that money back. There's some small fine print in some of these clauses that people didn't see when they were needing to hurry up and sign so that they can save their business. So if you relocate your business to save it, you're going to be penalized for it.
Really?
Yep.
I did not know that.
Me neither. Until I was on the call with Winnie Brinks and the SBA folk.
Wow. That's
today we're still here. We don't die. We don't die easy. We're still here. We still got, two or three people employed. And just continuing. I think we're pivoting so much that we're like wearing out the ground that we stand on with this pivot. But that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of can't do anything else. I mean, you can, like you said, you can either wither up and die, or you can push forward. And I think, most people with an entrepreneurial spirit, you believe in what you're doing. You believe you're doing the right thing. You don't always have all the answers, and so you push, and hopefully you push hard enough that you push through. So let's talk a little bit about, like, personally, since you're talking about pushing and stuff like that. I mean, I kind of feel like, and I've had many conversations with people that, and I think I even talked to a few of you about this before the panel. I think right now, before all this happened, our world was just on this treadmill, and everybody's just moving so fast. You don't know what's going on out there. And all of a sudden everything comes to a stop. So you have to reevaluate everything. You're looking at your business, you're looking at your health, you're looking at your family, you're looking at all these things, your kids. Everything is different. Everything has changed. And I feel like it's given people permission to take care of yourself, and to be open and honest about the fact that, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a family person, I've got to take care of me. It's not always all about the business. And I think it's given people, like I said, I think it's given people permission. Employers are giving employees permission to think of themselves first. And maybe that's not such a bad thing to come out of this, that moving forward, I think we have to look at a holistic picture of who we are as people, and what we do and what we bring to our businesses. So, I don't know. Does anybody want to speak to that? Because we're all trying to balance. We've always all tried to balance your personal life and your business life. But I think we tried to keep the personal life in the background, because we always felt like the business was the thing we had to be forward about. And I think now we have the ability, and we should be able to combine them both and be real about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's I agree with that. That the balance previously has been difficult, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the lady speaking, Lovey was speaking, and she said that instead of balance, she said, you'll never have balance. You'll never be, balance is equal and equal. You'll never have balance. She said, instead, we should be looking for harmony. So harmony is the fact that if, for those who grew up in the church, I would say that harmony is the statement of all things working together. So all things working together, because on one day you might be doing more of X, on another day you might be doing more of Y, but at the end, when it's all said and done, they all kind of work together, So it could be, I'm going to work 10 hours a day for the first 3 days of the week, so that I can have 2 days so that I can have 2 days in the week where I don't work and I can be with family, right? So that's not balance, because you had 10 days where you were killing yourself. That's harmony, because now when we look at how everybody's doing over the weekend, now we've struck a good piece of harmony. So I would say that that's what I'm seeking. I got to figure that out. But the pandemic caused many of us to slow down in some way, shape, or form. Now, one can still see that there's a level of privilege in saying, hey, I need to spend time with my family. I need to take care of myself, because I think about my household. Like, we got 3 kids. I got this business thing, and so and with the different policies and things changing, I always got to be thinking about the next thing and the next things. And so, in order to spend time with my family, that means that I'm going to be up late that night. And so I wouldn't necessarily call that balance, but I do think that what has happened for me with COVID-19 is recognizing even more the need to just sometimes just stop. Like, hey, you know what? It's last night. It's 7 o'clock. I'm in here standing up in the kitchen, standing up with my MacBook. I just closed it and we played Monopoly Junior.
Yeah.
I kicked the butts of 3 young kids. Unapologetically, but sometimes we gotta do that. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm about to pour this glass of bourbon, and I'm just gonna sit and I'm gonna read a book. And the crap that's waiting for me is just gonna be waiting. And so, for me, that's what I've been doing. And then what can I do? I can blame it on COVID. Like, hey, you know what? I needed a COVID timeout. I needed a COVID break, and everybody understands that because they probably just got off a break or they're about to go on one. So it's almost like even giving permission for people. You use the word permission, giving permission for people to take a break, giving permission for people to put some things on the back burner a little bit. Do we have to be running 100 miles an hour? No, we might have to be at 98 miles an hour, but we don't have to sprint the entire race. We can take a rest. We can take a break. We can tag someone else, hand the baton off if we need to. And so I think what I've learned too is a little bit more of efficient delegation, but also an appreciation for those who are on my team that can help me carry the load. My staff probably get tired of me. I'm always thanking them for the work they're doing and trying to find a way to help them out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Kristine, what about you and Brian?
Well, some days we really want to rip each other's hair out. So I think the work and life balance hasn't changed too much for us, because we have always been working from home mostly. So with the pandemic, it's the same. We're still working from home. But I think that for the first 5 months, I believe I avoided going back to see my family because I have grandparents that are 85 years old, and I just wasn't sure. I wanted to make sure that they're safe when we're staying at home more. And I know that some of you knew that I had a autoimmune disease before, which makes me a compromised immune system. So for the first, I think, months, or maybe even 3 to 4 months, I didn't go out anywhere, and Brian wouldn't let me go out anywhere, even to the grocery store. So that kind of made me very crazy. And on top of that, we only see each other. So some of the days, Brian will be like, I'm just going to take you on a drive. We won't get out of the car, but I'll drive you to see the park and to see the stores. It's just so I don't go, really crazy at home. So for us, been a bit of a challenge. And then that stage eventually passed. Like, okay, this is gonna just last. So I just gotta figure out how to cope with this. And so I think we were able to take some time and do some nightly walks, around the neighborhood after dinner, trying to have a healthier, I guess, work and life balance.
Yeah. Laura, what about you?
Oh, well, I think going back to what Jermale said about harmony, I think that a lot of, and not going back to normal. Like this is something, this like integration and harmony, it was way out of balance, I think, before the pandemic. And so now it's like, I don't ever want to go back to a time where I saw my kids for an hour and we ate dinner and got them in a bath and put them to bed. And that's just all I would see them during the week. And I think, we definitely got out of balance in the other direction. I have seen a lot of them, and of Ryan, my husband. It's been a lot, but I don't want it to go back to normal. I don't think that's a healthy way for us all to be living on a daily basis. And it's sometimes necessary. Like sometimes you need to hustle and get stuff done, and it's out of balance. But I think it needs to come back. And for a long time, it just wasn't coming back the other direction. So that I hope doesn't go back to normal. I do, we have so much great going on right now. There's so much bad going on in the world, and that's very distracting. But it's also like I have one kid that's back in school in person, and I have one kid, we have like a nanny share that we're using my basement for. And and work has been good in that I have work to be doing. Ryan and I are sharing an office. He's not here right now, but the rub with that is that he's like a super loud typer. He's like a really loud person, I find. Like the other day I'm on a call and he opened a string cheese, and I was like, that's the loudest I've ever heard a human open a string cheese package. So that's definitely gonna need to, that's where I'm like, maybe I need to start going into an office pretty soon. But it's been nice to integrate more of my life into my work and feel like I don't have to, completely separate things.
Mm-hmm.
And Laurie, let me add to that too, to say that, I've read quite a few books on this thing. Every time I wake up, I'm like, I got to read it. If it's a sentence, a chapter, or whatever, reading that. But I also want to say that there are more people now who knows what I'm going through as a business owner than who knew before. I don't hide anything. But I have more individuals that I talk to, so more people that I can be transparent and real to, and then who can either just listen or give me feedback. So it's kind of been, my therapy, if you will. And before I was keeping the stress within myself. And then number two, for those who have significant others, whether it's a boyfriend or you're married or whatever that may be, I want to encourage us all to think about ways that we can schedule, even if it's an in-house date night, and I'm coming fresh off of that last night with my wife, doing schooling and trying to work with the boys in her consulting business. I kept asking her, what is she doing? What are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? Do you have work? And she was not answering me like, oh, I got to do this email. I got to do this email. I was like, all right, and I kept asking, and I was like, I just want to spend time with you. I just want to spend time with you. And it ended up being me, her, and the dog trying to get in between us. I had to move Toffee over a little bit, but it was just as simple as going to Martha's Vineyard and getting some pastries, getting some cheese, and getting a bottle of wine. And we watched half of The Invisible Man, half because I fell asleep because I was sleepy, but I was trying, And I would say that, for those of us that have a significant other, let's think about how do we do something like that every so often, even if it's a surprise to the other person. And for those that don't have a significant other, is there a close friend or someone that you can connect with? And maybe, if you want to be distant, maybe you're sitting on the porch, having hot chocolate. And some people might want hot chocolate and Bailey's. Hey, do what you do. But I think that some of those are some additional things that can come from a time such as this.
Yeah. We have about 10 minutes left. Murphy, do we have any questions or anything? People, okay, that's fine. We have plenty more to talk about. So I this is probably, this is a silly thing to say, but I think it's really interesting to get different people's perspectives on So how do we look forward? Like, I know for me, I'm a planner. I love to look ahead and say, oh, I'm, at the end of November, I'm doing this, and then I'm doing this. And that's always been my nature. And I think when you run a business, you're doing that. You're planning. What's the next thing? What's the next move? Or what do I have to do to sustain myself, for the next couple months, whatever that is. And I think right now, that is, it's almost impossible to plan. And so how do you deal with that internally? You have to do something. What are your thoughts? Are you more open? You have to be flexible. So you plan, but then you have to plan for being flexible. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think because things have been so difficult to plan for the business, and I've been just kind of like waiting it out and trying to just, get by. I need that emotionally to like look for, like, I need to be like creatively working on something for my brain, or it just feels like every day I'm just doing some stuff to make money, and then I go to sleep and then I wake up. And if I'm not like built, and that's why I have always started businesses, because it's like it feeds that in me, and I haven't had a lot of that energy towards the business lately. So I've been finding other ways to do that. I mean, part of this, we have this like it's essentially a classroom in my basement that I spent months like finding cheap stuff on Facebook Marketplace that we could use, and like building that space. And then I am like constantly rearranging rooms in my house and figuring out like, how do I want this space to work differently, since we're going to be inside a lot of the winter. But it's tough, right? It's an ongoing conversation. Ryan and I were just talking about how it'd be nice to just have like something, if it's once a month, that we can like personally look forward to, even if it's like going to my parents for the weekend, or going, I don't know, not camping, but something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's something that I'm working on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Anybody else?
I think for us too, it's very important for a small company to plan ahead, like all the shortages, the inventory that I was talking about. But right now, like Laurie said, it is impossible to plan what's going on. And I feel like Brian and I have become is people where his parents are like, you're so bad at planning. You guys, do you have plans? Like, where are you going to be next week? Are you? And they're like, don't ask me that. Dad, just ask me, like, I can tell you about this week. That's about it.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to plan, 2 weeks ahead and 3 weeks ahead. So I think we just learned to take it a little bit at a time. And if things comes our way, we just, look at it with a smile and like, oh, surprise, this happened. This is great. Yeah. Learn to embrace it. It's definitely a different experience.
Yeah.
For me, I think we all need to recognize the other TLC that is out there. I was going to do a podcast on this, but the other TLC is things lost to COVID. And so we got to recognize that there's some grief, some grieving inside. I know we've lost people, but also events that we may look forward to, like, an anniversary trip, a birthday. I have had 3 kids who had to have COVID birthdays, right? There's some grief there. Why can't we invite so-and-so and so-and-so? So we got to recognize that. And so I think because of that, it makes me nervous about planning for things that may not come to pass. Because I did that for our bottles being at Bridge Street Market and stuff. And then it was like, oh, just joking. Let me snatch this rug from underneath you too. Yeah. And so I'm a little nervous, but I agree. We need to be looking forward to something. And so, for me, it is working on the next thing, working on another business or whatever, just to keep my mind going. But honestly, like I'm at a loss in terms of how do I plan for Malamiah Juice Bar for the future when you can't you can't look at projections of last year to plan next year, because that's what you do, right? In business, you're looking for you can't do that. It's like just crumble the paper up, and before you know it, you're just like staring at at something. And so, I think that's where I am. Is like, how do I've talked with my accountant, how do I plan? How do we plan? And we just don't know what consumer spending will be like, even with theaters opening on the 9th. Who's going to be in there? Are they going to go there, and then are they going to come and grab a juice after they leave there? I don't know. And then the other piece is that for us, one of the ways that I've been trying to plan forward is thinking about wholesale. What does wholesale look like for us? And so the next thing to work on is an inventory system. How do I build people and customers, and how do I keep up with inventory and whatnot? Something I've never done, but I think for our business, specifically in the industry that I am, in the life that I've lived, every time I do something, I'm always the first at it. And so there's usually a learning curve. And so now I'm like, okay, I know somebody got an inventory management system that I can utilize. So I'm kind of excited about finding something that I don't have to invent myself.
Yeah. And I mean, and kind of taking off on that, I mean, like a few of you said, do we want, like Laura, you said specifically, I don't want things to go back to the way they were, right? And so I don't think they will. I mean, I don't think we know, what next year is going to bring. And so with regard to business and what Jermale said, you can't really, you can't compare this year to last year. You're not going to be able to compare next year to this year. So I guess it's really just a matter of, taking what you've got now, moving forward, and trying to plan the best that you can. So what if we were going to sit here and give advice to maybe somebody thinking about starting a business? I mean, there's been a lot written about how right now is the time for entrepreneurship to flourish. People are out of work, so they're thinking about maybe creating a business, or they're thinking of innovative things because of what's happening right now. They're innovations to solve current problems or things like that. But it's also a really scary time because, to be an entrepreneur, it's like this vast unknown. So would you have any advice, or what would you say to somebody who says, I think I want to start a business like now?
Don't do it. I'm just kidding. I was just going to say that I think this is part of what we do as entrepreneurs is you are constantly taking in information and doing something about it and seeing how it works. And it doesn't always work out how you expect. I do think that personally, a lot of the things that are happening now that people are introducing new innovations, I think that unless they can pivot to the next normal, like it's not going to be like sustained. So, early on, like for instance, plastic packaging, very big right now, right? Like on food, like everything needs to be like contained, concealed. And we're just constantly learning new things that then negate that innovation. Mm-hmm. And not to say it's not worth doing, because those things have been valuable, but I would think, that listening, watching, and trying things on a small scale, which are things we've always been doing as entrepreneurs, I think it's even more important now to like be lean and just be trying things without tons of investment, which, not like anybody has that right now, but I think starting small, trying things, and getting market reaction is just even more important now than before.
Well, and I mean, I'm sorry, I wanted to say one thing when you said that. I mean, in reality, starting a business is obviously always a risk, right? You can plan and think you're planning, but things can always happen. In this case, it's a pandemic, but who knows what could happen as you start out on your entrepreneurial venture. So I think this just put it front facing for everybody, that you can have the best laid plans and you can be having the best year ever in your business, and then something happens and knocks you off your feet. So
totally,
it made that a real reality. I think, for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So Kristine, go ahead. I'm so sorry I interrupted.
No, I was just gonna, I really agree with what Laura said. I think that it is, but I personally think that I would really encourage entrepreneurs to just start their business right now, because of what's going on, where you have to be very flexible to make it work. And I think that that's something that a company that has been operating for years cannot do, or they don't have the ability to be as flexible. But where if you're just starting a business today and it's a smaller business, maybe you have more of that flexibility, right? You can pivot to what it needs. But the market trend is very hard to project. But I think that maybe not all business has to be planned or very well planned. Or maybe it doesn't have to be planned very far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can, have business that look at what's going on today and trying to solve that problem today.
Mm-hmm.
And then pivot when the in the next couple of months when something else happens, or if we go out of a pandemic. And I just think that flexibility is something that all entrepreneurs have that other bigger companies don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add to for people to really think about starting a business, and to start with what they have. Start small. Use what do you have. The market research Laura talked about, like that might be your friends. If you got a cupcake business and your friends ain't buying your cupcakes, you might not have anything. So maybe starting there. Holidays are coming up. Start selling some pies. But it's a process. So on one end, it might not be a good time to start a business. We have to face that reality too. It might not be. A lot of people that say that are either already have businesses or have never had a business. And the other piece is start what you have, because it's a process. So maybe you can't build the whole house today, but you can at least clear away the land, or you can cut the grass where you want to build the house at. So start small with the basic, the smallest piece. That might be readying yourself from an educational perspective in the market that you want to get into by getting a few books, or taking someone's master class, or doing a YouTube something, so start where you are, and then you can build slowly. And then there's nothing wrong with also talking to other people who have the same passion, so that you can partner on something instead of you using all your money. You all put a little bit together, and now you're in it together. So it's a little bit less of a risk.
Yeah.
I like that. It's that like I feel like tinkering is like a good mentality right now. So like if you're thinking about working in a space, maybe don't be like, I'm launching this business and we're doing this and it's going to be this way. But you can be like, I want to experiment and start figuring this out. And you can learn by doing, but it doesn't have to be this formal, like I'm starting a business today, in 6 months I will have traction, and then I need to start selling. Like just start learning and doing and tinkering. And I think it's just a great time for that.
Oh, and I would say this, and don't quit your job to start your business just right now.
I agree.
Yes, agreed.
Oh my God. Well, we're pretty much out of time here this morning, and I just want to say thank you to all of you. It's always great to talk to you, and this last 7 months has just obviously been unprecedented. So all of your stories and your inspirations are really helpful, and I look forward to seeing you guys in person sometime soon. And thanks for taking time this morning to chat.
Thanks, Laurie.
Thanks for
having me talk with everybody.
Thank you.
Stay juicy.